How did you end up in a metal band when you were into all this pop music?
I had my Columbia house. You could get the 12 tapes for a penny. So I bought every M band that was in heavy metal. So I bought Motorhead and Manowar and Megadeth and Metallica. And so I was like, okay, I like Metallica. I'll just buy all the M's. So,
and then you're a metalhead from there, right?
That's it. Never look back.
Hey, it's Chris Sernel, and welcome to another episode of No Smokin' We're Rollin', the podcast where we do a deep dive into the creative process behind songs and bands that I love. Today's guest is a drummer, singer, songwriter, rock star, author, pastor, Fortune 500 exec, high school valedictorian, husband, father of five, and an all-around amazing dude. His band formed in 1997 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they quickly started turning heads with their unique brand of metal and amazing live shows. One such head that was turned was none other than Fred Durst. Fred courted the band and wanted to sign the band, but they ultimately went to a different label. Durst famously and hilariously called and left a cursing rant on the band's answering machine, telling them their career as a band was over before it even started. Fred was wrong. The band put out their debut album, Gift, in 2000 through Atlantic Records. I remember falling in love with the lead single again and again, buying and wearing out a copy of the album, and seeing them on the Ozzfest 2001 and 2002 tours. They followed that up with their sophomore effort, the gold-selling Welcome, released in October 2002, which contains today's focus song. The band I'm talking about is, of course, Taproot, and today's focus song is the hit Poem. I fell in love with the song the first time I heard it. It's the perfect blend of heavy guitars, a driving beat, fantastic melodies, big hooks, and the touch of prog that Taproot is well known for. Here to chat about Poem, I've got the drummer of Taproot, my friend, Jarrod Montague. Welcome, Jarrod.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Good to be here. This is an awesome idea. Happy to be participating.
Were those facts right on the intro? Did I get everything? There's probably more, but I tried to get as many as I could in there.
Everything was pretty close, but this might be pertinent. So we did Ozzfest 2000 and 2001. So
okay, it may be pertinent, actually. Okay. I knew it was right around there. Okay. So before we jump in, I just want to mention on a personal note. So Taproot took my old rock band out as the warm-up band for 3 dates in the Midwest, circa like 2005, whatever the Blue Sky tour was. That's still one of the highlights of my music career. I don't know if you know that. You guys were by far the coolest major band we ever got to play with. And we played with a bunch, and most of them either ignored us or treated us like complete assholes. We got 30 minutes, an open-minded, packed crowd, a little bit of money, a great atmosphere to play in each night. You guys even hung out with us, talked to us every day. I just want to say thanks again for that experience, because it's still one of my highlights. So thank you.
Hey, it was our pleasure. You guys are a great band, and I remember the place that we played in Minneapolis, and I believe we were House of Blues in Chicago. Did I get that right?
Yes.
And
yep.
That was your stomping ground, so I'm sure that you helped us with some crowd there, and yeah, it was great. You guys are always a great band.
I think you guys did just fine on your own, but yeah, no, we were just happy to be there. The place was packed before we even got on the stage, so I was like, all right, Taproot fans, get here early and don't boo us off the stage or give us the finger the whole time, so we're in good hands.
Listen, I listened to your CD quite a bit. I had that in my car for a while.
Okay, right on. I'm influenced by today's song, no doubt.
There you go.
So Poem. I know a little bit about the story from your book and some other things, but where does the story of this song start? I know it probably started with Steven, but maybe you can take us back to the beginning a little bit.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So a lot of our songs, whenever we were writing, we'd usually take a break in between tours, go home. I remember that at one of those points, Steve was writing some new music, which is what would become on Welcome, and we're getting ready to go out on Ozzfest 2001. We got on the bus. Steve had a cassette tape from his 4-track, and he basically had written Poem, all the instrumentation. It was an earlier version, so it had a different intro and a really more straightforward bridge, which you can kind of hear out there. And I remember him putting it in the tape deck on the tour bus, first day at Ozzfest, and it probably happens with a lot of the types of songs that you're talking about, where it just resonates with people. There's something about it that's just magical, and we all knew right away that there was something special about the song. Driving groove, great hook, all the things that you said, and so we immediately knew that we wanted to start trying to play it during Ozzfest. So
yeah.
that's kind of where it started.
Was Steve excited about it? Did he walk in like knowing like I got a hit, these guys are gonna flip their lids, or was he just like, check this song out, guys, maybe you'll hate it? I don't know. Was he like, dudes, this is our ticket, this is gonna be a big one?
He's somewhat humble, but he also is a great musician with a keen ear for music. And so I remember him putting it on, going, check this out. This is gonna be really good for us.
That's so everybody instantly loves it, right? You, Phil, Mike are just like, boom. Did you guys play for anybody else in that time? Was like, because there's a lot of bands around, did you like want to test the waters at all on that demo of it to see if anybody else was like, maybe we're off, maybe somebody else hates?
I don't remember playing the demo for people, but we all learned it very quickly, and we decided we were going to play it on Ozzfest because our management heard it and they said, oh wow, there's something here, you need to kind of test it out. This obviously could be the lead single for the next record, because they felt like it was a nice mix of some of the heaviness of Gift, but also had a little bit of melodic intention that we wanted to go for the second album. So we learned it and we started playing it somewhere in our Ozzfest 2001 set, and we noticed right away, similar to our reaction, it just reacted right away. When the beat kicked in, we saw the crowd jumping up and down. Before the end of the tour, I think there must have been videos that had been shared of it or something, because people knew about the song, and there were small pockets of kids that were singing it back to us, even though we had played it in their city for the first time. So you just felt like there was something special about it, and it reacted to the crowd on the first time here, and that's kind of rare a lot of times, right? It's not that often that usually you play, hey, we're going to play some new stuff, and that's when you go get a beer or take a bathroom break, right? So totally. But they stuck around and they loved it, so we knew there was something special.
Was that the white outfit Ozzfest tour?
Yes, we decided to do we always thought it was funny and kind of comical how everyone had to wear black at Ozzfest, so we wanted to do the opposite. So we were all white. We had a big white backdrop that said Taproot, and it was kind of fun. We were the anti-Ozzfest, if you will.
Me and Andy were at all the Ozzfest. We saw you guys both times, but like that resonated with me. It was like a bit of humor, and everybody, a lot of those bands took themselves very seriously, very aggro and, alpha male-y kind of music, right? And you guys get up there in all white and you rock as hard as everybody. You guys are better than most of the bands out there. It was awesome because it was like a touch of brightness and light and humor, and anyway, brilliant. I absolutely remember that. My band, actually, we definitely stole that idea from you guys and did that at a Metro show in Chicago. So you're going to play the song and you're going to add to the set. Were you able to rehearse it, or was this like on tour? You just kind of because there's not really a sound check. Is it like your first song, your sound check on Ozzfest pretty much?
Yeah, you're right. We did, from my recollection, we did not rehearse it. Essentially, we all listened to it. We might have tried it at a sound check. Yeah, I believe that's where we must have rehearsed it.
Yeah, just run it a couple times. I don't remember it from the show specifically. Did you just throw it in the middle of the set somewhere? Just like, hey, it's a new one, see what happens?
Yep, it would have been in the middle set, because usually we ended with emotional times or something like that. That was kind of one where there's a breakdown in the middle where Steve would like to try to get a circle pit going, and he'd go down in the crowd. So yeah, I think we try to throw it in maybe second or third to the last. Here's a new one, and then make sure that you still got a good couple of closers that people know, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, as they're going to get their beer, they want to come back after the right. So right. It was an instantaneous song. So like Steven loved it, you guys all loved it, the kids loved it right away, management loved it right away. Anybody that didn't love it was obviously an idiot. Did Steven ever disclose like what he was writing about with it? Did he actually write a poem and then it became a lyric, or did he share any of that?
I think that poem was kind of a greatest hits of negative things that had happened to him mentally. So like the song on Gift called One Night Stand is basically about him having a bad mushroom trip. He's kind of referring to that when he says overbearing panic attack, entrenching my veins, and now I'll be okay. I pray this day will go away from me someday. And then he says, well, I've seen more than I should have too. There's a song called Can You that was kind of a demo. It's actually on this B-sides thing that I helped put together. There's one little verse in there where he talks about how he went out into the yard at his mom's house, and basically there was a dead person laying in his front yard that had just gotten in an accident, and that was the first time that he saw a live dead body. It's kind of like reminds me of the Stand By Me, right? Where at the end the kids discover the dead body, and that was really impactful to him. So, that's kind of when he says, I've seen more than I should have to. I've seen this on my own, because he was a little kid and it made a big impact on him. So the idea of poem to myself is and he's done this with a few different songs. He likes to write a hooky chorus, and then that way, because he always jokes about how there's a lot of songs that come on the radio and you won't know any of the words, but then there's the hook that and then everyone's singing along, and then you go blah, 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 and then you sing the hook.
Yes.
He's always liked that idea, or thought that was kind of funny that music does that for us. So the poem to himself and in case of fire, break the glass, he knew that was going to be a hook, just because it's something that you see everywhere.
Yep.
And so the poem to self is kind of like, I know I'm writing this hooky thing to get you to feel better about all the bad stuff I just talked about, right?
Yeah. I love it. As a 20 years ago-ish kid, the lyric didn't really matter to me back then as much. It was more just amazing groove, great melodies, awesome harmonies, great production. But as an adult, I'm sitting here going, one of my big things that I've started doing the last few years is journaling. And I keep thinking about how therapeutic journaling and writing songs, journaling is, and how much more aware I am of things and how much better my mental health is. And I just think, like, a poem to myself, what a great way to deal with some of these tragedies and negative things that have happened in your life. It's like you never step into the same river twice, because the river's different and you're different. So 20 years later, it's a totally different song that speaks to me in a totally different way.
Well, it's funny too, if you think about the other songs of our peers, the Linkin Parks and Papa Roach, it seems to me, because I've done a lot of thinking about that period of time and why some of that music resonated. If you think of the first few lyrics of, say, Papa Roach, Last Resort, cut my life into pieces is my last resort. Linkin Park comes to mind. Well, at least the shut up when I'm talking to you.
Right.
That first lyric there, overbearing panic attack entrenching my veins, it grabs your attention because it's like, oh, something's bad happening. What's this about, right? And then I think about some of our other singles. They kind of started off with almost like love type lyrics. Like mine said, when I look into your eyes, calling was your face is burned inside my brain. So I almost kind of think, okay, well, maybe that's something that is why that resonated, is because it was something that was negative that was happening, like those other songs that resonated with us that were in our early 20s at that time, when we may have had angst or going through pain or trying to figure out what we're going to do with our life. For some reason that resonated, and I think that probably grabbed people's attention right away,
Yeah, for sure. And I was a little older than well, I was 20 something then, but like as a teenager, like that stuff hits you really hard as a teenager too, right? Right out of the gate, like you said, just those lyrics, it's like, man, I can relate to that sort of, I'm a little bit of an outcast of panic, mental health issue. We didn't talk about it as much as kids back then as we do now, but yeah, like I said though, 40-something me still resonates with the song just as much, maybe even more. Is the poem to self version on B-sides, is that the version Steven showed you, or is that like a different demo?
It's a different demo. So we went in and recorded 6 songs with Fred Maher. I don't know if you know who that is, but
yeah.
So we went to LA and we did the 6 songs. Interestingly, it was the same week that 9/11 happened. So we were out there to do that demo, and it was a Tuesday when that happened, and we were supposed to fly home that Friday. Well, all the flights were grounded, so we rented a van and we drove from LA to Michigan. But yeah, anyway, so we did the 6 songs there. So the version that's on B-sides is very similar to the original one that Steven had, with the different intro and the different kind of straightforward bridge.
Right.
There wasn't much change except for at the end of the Besides one, I do kind of like this punk, like like this fast outro, which I still love, which isn't in the final record version, the end. But that was something that was different. So anyway, another claim to fame that Fred has was he did a lot of drumming for Matthew Sweet. I've always loved the song "Girlfriend," in particular the drum fill in the middle where he goes da 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 da, and I said, oh, so you played that fill? And he said, yeah. So that must have been a great day in the studio. He said, yeah, it sure was. Yeah, so the guy who played the drum fill is the guy who recorded the kind of newer demo version of Poem himself. Yeah.
Okay, but which was more or less kind of like a carbon copy, just a little better sounding version of what Steven kind of put together.
That's right.
Okay, so
that's right.
The version from that to the record a lot's the same, but there's a lot different, and there's a lot of things that take it over the top. Tell me a little bit about that process. Was this straight with Toby, Wright, or tell me how you guys got hooked up with Toby initially?
We pretty much knew we wanted to work with Toby. There was a short list of people that we wanted to work with, but we knew that Toby had a reputation for taking bands to the next level. So he did that with, Seven Dust Home and with Korn Follow the Leader. Those are some records that we really liked the sound of, and we knew that that's the direction we wanted to go, at least in terms of taking our career to another level. So, and Steve was always really interested in melody, but he also liked a lot of the stuff that Toby had done with Alice in Chains, especially.
Yes.
He focused on the later records, Jar of Flies and the Dog record, and he really liked a lot of those harmonies. So it was just kind of a no-brainer. When we recorded the first record, Gift, with Ulrich Wild, it was more, we essentially recorded what we already had. There wasn't a whole lot of pre-production or a whole lot of changes, but Toby made it really clear that we needed to play together as a band. When we first got together, he said, okay, well, play me your songs. I'm sure we played Poem for him. And he said, well, here's the problem. Phil is always ahead of the beat, and Mike's always behind the beat, and you're kind of trying to follow them all over the place. And we said, oh, so it all averages out, right? he says, no, that's not how this works. So he immediately put us on a click, right? So when we started playing the songs, he'd say, okay, let's establish a click, because when you go in the studio, you're going to play to a click, and we don't want to initiate any bad habits. So when we were working on Poem, we picked a BPM that worked for it, and we knew that we wanted a different kind of intro. So we kind of liked the idea that if there was more of a clean intro that went into heavy on the guitar, that there'd be kind of more dynamics there. So that's when Mike came up with the thing that kind of sounds like Boston More Than a Feeling riff. And then we knew that we wanted a drum intro that would kind of throw it into the beginning of the song. They say that we're all combinations of everything that we've ever heard, so I've been told many times that the intro kind of sounds like Smells Like Teen Spirit, but the first couple of measures do the da 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 da, but then we do the da 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 down the toms. And I remember we knew that was gonna be a concern when we did it, but we thought that it was different enough that we would be okay to go ahead and keep it the way it was. So that was the intro part.
let me interject real quick. I've listened to the song probably 300 times in my life. It never dawned on me ever that it sounded like Smells Like Teen Spirit. So never.
Oh, that's good.
Never. And as you're even saying it, I'm like, yeah, little, but no way. Yeah, I love that. That's great. Yeah, give them the chorus intro, the clean thing, and then when your drum fill comes in, it's amazing. I mean, it's huge. The drums sound amazing, and then boom on the guitar. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, so I remember too, even after we recorded the final studio version, I'll get back to the pre-production, I remember they had Mike fly back out to LA and do one more layer of a really crunchy, distorted guitar, because our management and label felt like it needed to be heavier, which is kind of cool. I mean, you don't really think that for maybe rock radio or a kind of pop label like Atlantic would want, but yeah, I remember they wanted that to be really gritty and dirty, so he went out and did it. So everything else is pretty much the same. I remember there was a lot of conversation about when to put the harmony on the chorus, because I don't believe it's full on the first chorus. But if I remember right, it's more pronounced on the second chorus, and that was kind of a conscious decision to kind of build it up. One thing I like to say was often my role in the band would be if we'd kind of write the basic structure of a song, and then I'd say, okay, how can we F it up a little bit? And so the bridge was where I would normally say, okay, that's a good spot to kind of stretch your wings a little bit and try to mess with a little bit more. So how can we do some off time stuff with the bridge? And so then we kind of do the 2 shorter 3 beat bars and then a longer 4 beat bar, and then it goes into the regular, full measure of the song. And then we do a version of that kind of again on the outro, and then the pounding to get back out. So that was all something that we knew in concept we wanted to do. We just wanted to try to make it a little bit weird and tricky, but we wanted to be a smooth transition in and out of the bridge. So, we eventually worked through a few different combinations of that, and we kind of liked how it turned out.
The bridge is like, holy shit, we get to this part, and it's even better. I mean, like, again, on the demo, it's just like a straight, just jam the riff. And I'm like, the bridge is the part where you guys sat down and said, we're Taproot. We don't fucking play 4/4 the whole way. We can't do that. Like, we've never done that. We need to add some odd time signatures. I imagine as the drummer, you're probably a big part of a lot of that stuff, because it's like, we're going to go 3/4 here, 3/4, 3/4, full beat. Then speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. So, and it really comes down to how everything computes with the math, right? And you're right. It's okay. Let's try with 2 measures of the 3 beats and then do a 4 beat and then go into riding the riff. Or what's it sound like if we do, 4 of those and then we just go to the riff. But so, you try to do a bunch of different combinations. I'll bet you we worked on that for, a couple hours in real time, trying different versions. You record them, you listen back to it, because sometimes it doesn't really work the way you thought it did until you listen back to it. But then, the other kind of fun thing was going back. So we decided, okay, we want to kind of drop out and just do the guitar and the vocal. This song is and then the next fun thing to figure out is, okay, when does the band come back in, right? So you try all those different combinations. So this song is a poem to myself. Do you come in there? It helps me to live. Okay, we try that. No, it doesn't really work. Okay, do we go in case of? Do we come in there? No. And then finally, probably made the most sense ever for us to try this first. You come in where it says break, in case of fire, break. That's where you come in. Okay. But that's all fun stuff to try every different version of it too. To then you kind of take that to the outro to say, like, okay, how do you end this thing, right? Do you do the pounds? Do you do the choke? Do you let it fade out? I mean, at some point you have to say, okay, this song is done. I could keep working on it forever, but
they call it releasing a song or releasing an album for a reason. It's like, you need to release the song, like, not just we need to let go of it. And songs are never finished; they're merely abandoned. You guys nailed this arrangement perfectly. Like, it just, all the parts are cool. The math in the middle's cool. Like, you think about rock radio, adding some 3/4 bars, and it's a little risky. It's not, Soundgarden did it before, but it's seamless, and it feels like you can still kind of headbang your way through it and everything, and you can hit all the accents. But I think you guys were masterful on that part, and that part blows me away every time. Just like, this arrangement's so good.
That was always my goal. Was, you mentioned the headbanging thing. I would always see if I could kind of nod through it all the way, because even if things got kind of odd time, I've got that mix where I still want to be able to find the common thread all the way through, and I want to make sure that you can always keep nodding your head. And if it gets too mathy or Meshuggah-y, like Tool or something like that, then I kind of start to lose interest unless I can figure out how to nod my head all the way through it.
A lot of your other songs, especially on the first album, there are some mathy things happening. Some of this is too smart for a lot of people, which is fine, but having that bridge and that in Poem, it made it Taproot. Like, it was heavy, but it had this hook that, like, everybody could sing along with, and it was super melodic. You guys have been melodic from the beginning. Like you said, that was obviously Steven's thing, like, write these melodic choruses, again and again. A lot of that stuff off the first album. There's tons of melody. The thing I did love, though, and you brought it up a little bit, was the harmonies. Like, the harmonies on this song are unbelievable. Like, there's a harmony the whole verse, too, right?
Yes.
It's the whole verse. It comes in, then the chorus, like you said, it sort of adds the harmonies. Quick point, when we toured with you guys, we always sat side stage to watch your set, and we're like, Jarrod sings the background vocals on all these songs. Was that right? Yes?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Because we would hear the harmonies out in the front. We're like, who's singing them? And then we saw you had a mic back there, like, oh. So it's Phil Collins, back there playing prog metal drums with singing harmonies. So I don't know. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I heard it was hard to because I would have I call it the Britney Spears mic, instead of doing the side mic or whatever. I use side mic now and when I play, but because I've heard a lot of sound guys complain that the Britney Spears mic just picks up too many cymbals and it's really hard to manage and it's unidirectional. And there's been a few covers of Poem online, and there was actually a guy did a vocal cover of Poem, and he does a third harmony, which is crazy. And I just watched it maybe 6 months ago, And I commented to him, I said, oh, that's really cool. I like that harmony that you added. And he's like, that's not an ad, that's there in the song. I'm like, really? Because I was probably focused on at least doing one other harmony for the second harmony when I was singing background. And then I went back and listened to Poem maybe in the last 6 months, and I thought, oh my gosh, it is there hidden. And I didn't really realize that there was a third harmony there throughout a lot of it. It's pretty wild.
It became a part of Steven's sound as a singer. Like, it's part of the Taproot sound, and it's layered so well. Like, the good thing too is I never felt like it lost anything live. Seeing you guys wasn't like, oh, I missed, you covered the big harmonies. They were subtle, but they were cool and unique, and his voice is so unique too that I got to find this vocal cover of Poem though. That sounds incredible. When you're working on your drums for the song, do you sit down and work on your fills like apart from the band? There's a lot of like accents with the things like that you're doing. It's subtle, but it's great, and you're playing for the song. It's cool enough to be like, oh, there's a cool little thing, but it's not stepping on the song. How do you approach that stuff when you're kind of coming up with your part for a song like Poem?
Yeah, that's a great question. I learned a lot of that from working with Toby, because when we would really get into mapping out and dissecting a song, he would say, try your kick placements in different places. Probably the easiest example that I can think of is Living on a Prayer, Bon Jovi. So you think about how the drums accent the vocals on that song. So the snare and the kick accents exactly match where the vocal syllables are. So I always kind of had that in mind. Like when we wrote Poem, it was kind of a fully baked song. So I was already aware of what the vocals were going to be. So that was kind of nice, because even though Steven had already kind of mapped it out pretty well, I knew that I liked the stutter thing on the kick for the chorus. So the beat is kind of like da 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 da, but we still made sure that it all matched. So this song is like that stutter hits on the is da 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 da, poem to myself. So the second stutter kind of hits the my. It helps me. So in case of fire, like it all the kick kind of hit the main syllables of the song. So yeah, I'd say that's one of the things that we make sure that we are cognizant of when I'm kind of trying to think about drums. I want to make sure that once the vocals are written, that they're accenting them and they're not stepping on them. Now, we talked about the bridge. In my mind, the bridge is kind of the free-for-all. We had the great pleasure of getting to write songs with Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins for a week, and that was his perspective on the bridge. Was the bridge is either where you get to take it to a completely different place, and or the bridge has to beat everything else that has come before it.
And in 2023, people just don't write bridges anymore. They're like, well, I'm too lazy to do something different, and I'm not going to beat it, so let's just move on to the next one. And songs are 2 minutes and 22 seconds long now. It's funny, I'm actually thinking about the songs that I've done for the podcast. Like, I think every one of them, I've said to the person, wow, this bridge takes the song over the top. But like you said, I love that. It's either it should be a song within a song and go somewhere else that's free for all, or man, this has got to be the, wow, this is the best part of the song. Ironically, you'll have producers tell you if the bridge is the best part of the song, it better be the chorus. Like, oh, this is too good to be the bridge. You guys need to get that earlier in the song. Throw something away in that bridge.
You probably do this to a songwriting, because we would do it. We'd write a part, and then we always would normally say the song would become whatever order you wrote it in. So you might know it's a chorus right off the bat, but sometimes the first thing you write, okay, well, if that's a verse, what's the chorus? And then the third thing you write's the bridge, and then you piece it together. But that's one thing that Toby again really challenged us with was, okay, well, what if that's a bridge? What if that's a verse? What if that's a chorus? Let's try playing that as the chorus and that as the verse, and you just kind of start mixing it all up, right? And that's where it gets fun too. Well, and the reality of it was we had a bunch of money from Atlantic backing us up in the form of a big fat loan that allowed us to go sit in a studio in LA for months and months and months and just get in there from noon to 6 and go like, okay, how are we going to reinvent ourselves today?
That money wasn't Atlantic's. It was actually out of your own pocket, unfortunately.
Yeah, you start figuring that out as the label is kind of like a big bank, and you and the management go to the label and you try to get loans for the tour. I remember our loan for Ozzfest, I believe, was $170,000 for a 2-month tour for the bus and the tour manager and the everything.
Yeah,
and the hotels and all that. And then Speaking of poem, I remember the budget for that video was $225,000. It was directed by the brothers Strauss. All that money comes from Atlantic. It essentially ends up being a loan. Your management gets their percentage based on the gross that comes in from Atlantic, and then they start holding that as the tab that you need to pay them back. If you got $1 million loan, then essentially, we had to sell maybe 10 million records to pay back that $1 million, which we never did. So There's no incentive for your manager to tell you to try to do things with lower expense, because then the loan from the label is less money and they take their money from the gross. So
tough to make money in the music industry, even with hit songs. So yeah, it's crazy. I want to get to the video and the release in a second. One other thing about the song, that's the break and the and the pre-chorus, that was like always one of his things. Even on, I think it's again and again, like the was that just something he did? Was that just a thing? Because it's a great hook actually, and a great just signature things that you guys had about you. Was that just something he did and you guys liked, or was there ever any talk about it, or you just something he did?
Steve is a metalhead at heart. He was into Meshuggah and the first Head PE record, and then of course the first Limp Bizkit record. So he was always liking stuff that had that screaming aspect to it. So I think he thought that if there was a way to combine both of those to have a good kind of pop hook, and similar, frankly, when System of a Down came out, that was right around the time that we were kind of first starting to do a lot of writing, and we thought that they did that really well, that they were able to do this screamy, chaotic stuff, but also as long as you said sugar and you had a little hook, it was like, oh, that's cool. You can still have fun with this stuff. And
yes.
But it's funny too. I've heard him say before, I don't know which kind of scream the break is. I think it's a real scream, but as a singer, he always said that it hurts his, because everyone said, oh, it must really hurt his vocal cords to do that screaming.
Yeah. I
know he always said that it hurts his vocal cords more to do like really high register singing than it does to do the screaming, because I think to some degree some of the types of screams are more of a loud whisper studio trick.
Yes.
Right, like a break.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. You get right on the mic, you cover it with your hand a little bit, and you go, like break, something like that, right? And you get that sound. And it doesn't really hurt your voice, and it sounds huge and powerful. And you double it or triple it, so it's huge in the mix. And it was unique to you guys, though, the one word scream, like the break, like coming right. Doing it live, it was hard because you got to come out of the scream into like right back to melody. But it was just a cool thing that I thought you guys perfected and was Taproot. And how did you end up in a metal band when you were into all this pop music? Were you
yeah, you know what it was? So I took piano lessons growing up, and I loved all the pop music. And then I think it was Guns N' Roses was probably kind of the first harder rock band that started coming on the radio, and I really liked that. And then I was at a friend's birthday party, and he had a VHS tape of a Minor Threat video. I didn't know it was Minor Threat at the time, but they were stage diving. I was just enamored. I said, what the heck are they doing? And, oh, that's stage diving. Yeah, it's, what these heavy punk bands do. And I said, well, where can I find more music like this? And the kid said, oh, well, this band Metallica, they're a heavy metal band. They've got a new album coming out. It's And Justice for All. I begged my mom to buy me the tape at the local grocery store, and I put it in. I put the Walkman on, and as soon as I heard the drums for Blackened, it was just something hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I knew within a minute or two of listening to that song that the drums were so prominent, like they almost seemed like they were one of the main instruments. And now looking back, it's because they were so busy and because they were tuned so uniquely. Like Lars really tuned up the kick to be very high pitched and prominent and high up in the mix. Yeah. And something just hit me like, I need to play drums. Like it was just like drawn to it. And then one of my friends' parents had just bought him a drum set and a guitar and a amp. And so, I think the first song we played together was Smoke on the Water, like a lot of people. And right. And then then you figure out AC/DC and the Eagles and all this, relatively simple stuff. And had my Columbia house, you could get the 12 tape for a penny. So I bought every M band that was in heavy metal. So I bought Motorhead and Manowar and Megadeth and Metallica. And so I was like, okay, I like Metallica. I'll just buy all the M's. So
There's something about these M bands. They're great, man. Yeah, Megadeth, Metallica. Man, I never even thought about that. Right. Maybe that I'll have a podcast episode where I discuss all the M rock bands from 1985 through 95 or something like that. I love it. And then you're a metalhead from there, right?
That's it. Never look back. No, I still love a good pop song, especially from the 80s. But no, I still love hard rock and metal. So
you guys finished the song with Toby. Randy Staub mixed it, I think. Is everybody like freaking out about how good everything sounds?
Yes. Yep. And even I was trying to remember when we recorded it in order. There was a conscious decision not to record it first, because even though it was the one that we had practiced the most, since we got some road time on Ozzfest, we knew that it was going to be such a big song that we should record it. I think we recorded it second or third, because we wanted to get a little bit warmed up in the studio, before we kind of, cut what was probably going to be our biggest hit or our first single. So, but yeah, I think one thing I've always thought of, and the reason I love this idea, is I would love to see a compilation of bands listening to songs in the studio the first time as like a final mixed version, right? Because I can remember those moments for a lot of our songs, and there's something that's really special about it when you listen to it. It's fully mixed and you're all in the studio and the great speakers, and it's like you just get chills and you're like, oh wow, this is great. So yeah, we had that experience. It really felt awesome. It felt like it was going to be great, and we just really had a great feeling that it was gonna open the next door for us.
I totally remember, as soon as you said it, I was thinking back to a time I was sitting, we were recording with Ray DeLeo, who did some of Filter stuff in Filter Studio, playing back a song, and like I started getting weepy. I'm like, oh, this is what the legend of what people talk about when something turns out amazing. Was anybody weeping in your studio, or was it?
No, I don't recall any weeping, but I know the feeling.
Yeah, no, right. It is a magical thing. Like the first time you hear the big speakers, you can't even talk to each other because it's so loud on the speakers, and it's like, wow, this is the last whatever years of work that we've been putting in, and that's great. So label's excited. The video, I love that video, man. It's super cool. Tell me about the video shoot a little bit. Yeah, what was that like?
It was this old house downtown LA. When we got there, there were still people going around with like blowtorches and fire, like melting TV sets and stuff. So they torched this whole house, for this shoot. But I remember we got in there, set everything up, and it smelled like there was a fire in there. And it looks like Steven and maybe all of us have a bunch of makeup on under our eyes, and it was just soot. It was like the fiery soot from the house that just kept building up. And I remember too, in between shoots, because of course we're doing a video shoot. It was I think we were doing the video like around August. It was hot in LA, and so we were sweating, and I remember that soot was just dripping off of us. I remember, we would like blow our nose in between takes because it was like getting in our nostrils, and just like black soot coming out. And I remember having black coming out of my nostrils and my like spit for like 2 days. So we sacrificed for that, man.
You may develop lung cancer earlier than everybody else as a result too, but
that's right.
They torched the house just for the video.
I don't know if it was like condemned. They were okay with us going in there and being in there for 2 days, but
these kids will be fine. Don't worry, they'll be fine.
That's right. We did most of the band shooting in the first day, but then I remember the second day, the actors, like the guy and the family and the girl, they were going to have to go back there and do some more individual cameo stuff, but we got all the band stuff done in one day. And this is kind of other random funny thing that I just thought of. The actor in that video, that actor's name was Cooper, and I remember he told us, he's like, yeah, there's this new actress, Kaylee Cuoco, and I'm going out with her tonight. So he was going out to meet her the night after he did the poem shoot.
Hopefully he played poem for her, like, yeah, check out this thing I was working on with this band. His first date with her was covered in soot and breathing toxic fumes on her the whole time too. So tell me about when the sort of the feeling of, so video's done, they're going to radio, first time hearing it on radio, first time seeing the video on actual TV. Like, tell me what that's like. What are you guys doing? What are you feeling like when that's happening?
Yeah, it's surreal, right? I mean, you grow up listening to the radio, you grow up watching MTV, and then it never got old to me. I don't think it really gets old to a lot of people. I mean, maybe if it was, if you had a mega crazy hit song like, Thriller or something, then maybe it's different. But, for us, I mean, we would see Poem come on MTV or MTV2 on the bus maybe, once a week. And it was like, oh, cool, it's on, right? Because it never made, Total Request Live or any of the real big shows. So it was not big enough to where it was still a bit of a surprise and a treat whenever it came on. And of course, sometimes we'd hear it on the radio if we were in a city and getting ready to play a show and driving around maybe with like the label rep, and we were listening to the station, the local station that was pumping the song, and it was always a really cool reminder that, oh yeah, this is like nationwide. We're in Memphis and they're playing it, or we're in New York and they're playing it, or we're in Dallas and they're playing it. I mean, that was always fun to hear it on the radio in another state. And I've always wondered, what does an artist think of when they hear their song on the radio? And maybe again, that was going to get to your question, but when I flash back to a few different things depending on when I hear it, but usually it's a moment of either making the video, or sometimes I get flashes of like a crowd responding to it, like on a hot Ozzfest day, or being in the studio starting to record it. So it's interesting. The video thing's interesting to me because I almost feel like the video kind of taints it, or it becomes so associated with it that it becomes something else. But then I guess maybe that's the point of videos, and maybe that's why they work and connect people with them. I've always found it interesting that sometimes I think of making the video for the song when I hear it on the radio. That's one of the three flashes that would come up.
Yeah, super cool. How does your life change, and how does the band's life change now with the single at radio, MTV? It's everywhere, Memphis and New York and all over the world. How did that change your life and the band's life?
Yeah, it felt like we at least had a way to communicate to people in a way that there was a good chance, at least for a period of time, that they had heard the song and they knew who we were. So it definitely became more recognizable in terms of if you're just talking to some random person. Oh, what do you do? I'm on a band. Yeah, we're called Taproot. Oh, anything you might have heard? Oh yeah, it's a song Poem, Case of Fire. Oh yeah, I remember that. And so right. it was something that all of a sudden gave us something that was uniquely identifiable, and that got big enough. I think it was the number 5 song on rock radio in 2002. It was big enough that if you were listening to the radio that year, rock radio, that you would have heard it. And it's pretty cool. I mean, even now, here we are 20 some years later, still people are like, and it could just be some random person at work or whatever. And, oh, what was your band? Oh, Taproot. Oh, I think I've heard of that. Yeah, da-da-da-da, right? So there's a term at radio, I believe it's called a catalog song. So all of a sudden now Poem is in the catalog, and supposedly it will always be there, and it's always going to be part of, the jukebox of radio, which is, right, I think, really special. You could argue that maybe it's a one-hit wonder type thing, but I'd say that's the biggest thing, is it ended up being a key to some kind of broader recognizability and something that we knew would kind of help us bridge into the future.
Which also it's got to be validating as an artist. I mean, you guys had success with your first album, and the singles did well, not, obviously enough to get a second album. We say we make music to just make music, and we do, but it's like nice to get an attaboy once in a grand while, especially if your love language is, words of affirmation or something. Like, okay, it's tough to tell your mom. Your mom's like, what are you working on? Like, we're in this band, we tour with Linkin. Like, who's Linkin Park? I don't know. But then it's like, oh, I heard my son's song on the radio.
And I guess the other thing that we always took a lot of pride in is not really negotiating on what we wanted to do. I told a story in the book about meeting producers for the third album, Blue Sky Research, and we met with Howard Benson, who became well known for, Flyleaf and POD, and he was like the hit guy, and he told us, if you want hits, then you go with me. If you don't want hits, then you don't need to be working with me. And we're like, it's not really about hits for us, so, we'll pass. But the thing about Poem that I also like is that, it is a heavy hard rock song, and that does happen to have a good melody, and there is, a little bit of a fun kind of element to it with the off-time bridge and all that. And So we didn't feel like that we compromised our integrity. We certainly didn't get, famous off a cover song or, something that was really far outside of what the core of what we saw our identity being was. So that was rewarding as well.
Is Poem your favorite song that you've ever been a part of?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it's probably the most fun to play. Again, just mostly from the crowd response, but I wouldn't necessarily choose to play that in terms of either to play a song that I played on the drums or to listen to. It's fun to play if it's in front of a crowd that knows it. I guess that's probably what I'd say about it.
If you get one song to play for people, you're going to play Poem. If you get one song to play for yourself, it might be something different.
That's a good way to put it. No, I will say, if it's somebody that I know is going to be open to something that's pretty heavy, I will send them Poem. Otherwise, I might send them a different song.
yeah, sure. No, you're right. As even on Blue Sky, like I don't want to say you guys got less heavy as you went, but maybe a little bit, right? Each album got kind of, it still was Taproot, it was still prog, there was still plenty of screaming and heavy guitars, but like the Corgan influence stuff on the third album it's a little softer, quote unquote.
Yep. I think that things got smoother is the way that I usually think of it. Like I think of Gift being really kind of edgy and raw, and I think of Welcome being really kind of choppy, like it's soft, heavy, soft, heavy, soft, heavy. I think of Blue Sky Research being pretty smooth. I think we got a lot more mature in terms of songwriting, and we tried to make the parts flow together a lot better. And that's one thing that, frankly, Billy Corgan brought to us. He said, hey, listen, I listened to Gift and I listened to Welcome, and you guys rely on loud, soft dynamics for your changes. You need to think about, chord progressions and lyrics and things like that to move your songs along, rather than just like clean, dirty, closed hi-hat, crash cymbals. I'm like, oh yeah, we did do that, didn't we?
I don't want to dwell on Corgan too much, but just give me a minute about what that was like working with him. Was that just an amazing experience?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I learned probably 25% about the knowledge that I would say I have about songwriting from him in like a week's long period. And I asked him what kind of music he listened to. He said he listened to music from the 20s because they didn't have the ability to rely on dynamics because they were putting music down on wax through the phonograph, and so they had to move songs with chord changes and melody changes and going up and down. So I thought that was interesting. One of the things that he taught us about songwriting is we had this song Promise that was on Blue Sky. We started off in like a kind of a 6/8. It used to be like da 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 da, and he said, okay, one of the ways that you can explore a lot of different versions of where a song could go is you just strip it down to its chords. He says, okay, so what's the first chord in that chorus? Just play it open on an acoustic guitar. Okay, what's the next one? Play it open on an acoustic guitar. Now, you can take that chord and you can play it in a whole bunch of different ways and then see which way feels the best. So with Promise, he said, why don't you play a shuffle beat? So I was like, you mean like and he said, yeah, okay, no. What guitar pattern would go with that on the drums? And then it'd be this, and then that's how we kind of broke out of that 6/8 thing that we were fixed in. And and we took that on to like a lot of different songs that we did. Like, what would it feel like if this chord progression had a bluesy swing to it? And that became April Suits on Blue Sky. And so it just really opened up our mind and our doors on all the different options for songwriting. It's really cool.
I love it. The master class from one of the masters. I love it. On Poem, what's something about Poem that everyone misses about the song that you love?
One thing that comes to mind that we didn't really talk about is we actually had some discussion about back to the bridge when it gets into the groovy part, like like I hit the China on the 4 of every one of those. China then kicks and the reason that kind of comes to mind is because Toby always hated the China because I think he felt like it really stomped on a bunch of other things because, the China cymbal is very loud. One of his best compliments was that he said, I hate the China, but you actually place it in some pretty decent places, so you can leave it there.
Oh, kind of a backhanded compliment, but I love that. That's high praise, huh?
That's right. So and it looks, like if I remember right in the video too, I think you can see me kind of hitting it. It's just like it's such a big open movement, right? That it's like it's impactful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I think is pretty fun. That I don't know if anyone necessarily notices that the China's in there.
Is there any parts of the song that you wish you could change today? Like anything you're like, oh man, I wish we could go back and you added something to it live, or is there anything you change about it, or perfection as is?
I noticed this, and now you can go back and notice it too. There's 4 pounds at the very end. I noticed that the third pound is a little less velocity than the rest of them, so it's kind of like it's a mistake that got left in. It's like da 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 da.
But it's I love that. As I'm making music today, I'm always looking for mistakes to keep in songs because everybody fixes everything, and drums are sometimes programmed or samples or whatever. I can't purposely make a mistake because then it doesn't sound right. But those are the things that make it real. Like especially we get into this AI, who knows where that's going. Like I crave the humanity in the mistakes. So I love it. I'm going to listen for it, and I'm going to celebrate that mistake every single time I hear it from now on.
Yes! Excellent! That's a great question, by the way. That's fun.
I love it. Do you want to do a quick lightning round here?
Oh, sure.
Okay, here we go. Favorite song of all time?
Pump Up the Volume, Mars.
All right, love it. Favorite song of right now? Like if you were, like, what are you listening to right now? What's your favorite song?
Favorite song by Taproot. That's the name of the song. It's on the new record. It's so good. I got the feeling the first time I heard Poem, and it's called Favorite Song.
Okay. I love it. We'll come back to that in a second. Favorite album of all time?
Metallica and Justice for All.
Favorite book besides your own?
Bible's the obvious choice, but I'll say a close second is Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond.
Guilty pleasure artist or band?
I know, I like the song Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne. That's like a really goofy pop song that I love.
Dude, like the Avril Lavigne, her that album and the previous one, it was like the perfect blend for me, probably of you too, like rock meets pop. And it was like, this can, it can hang with rock bands, but it's still like totally radio. Avril, huge fan. Okay, love it. Girlfriend, one of my favorites.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Okay. What Taproot song do you think people are sleeping on?
So Eager. That's on Blue Sky Research. So that was the last song that we wrote. We had 2 weeks to kill in the rehearsal studio before we were going into the regular studio, and our guitarist Mike was playing this weird thing on, I guess it's in the bridge of the guitar and in between where the dots are. I don't know guitars. And it's this weird, the song starts that way. It's like, it's this weird sound. It's one of the fastest songs that we ever wrote. We're just like, hey, what's that? And then we, as they say, the song wrote itself. And it's one of our favorites. It's, I play only broken cymbals on that. That was a weird idea that Toby had. And you can kind of hear it if you know it, because there's a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of sustain. It's like if I'm riding the cymbal, it's like
no, you hit it and it's like it makes it instantly stops ringing. And so tell me a little bit about what Taproot's doing right now, like the Besides album. You mentioned the favorite song, upcoming tour, it sounds like, or at least some shows.
Yep. So Steve and Richard, their singer, for the last I guess it's been about 10 years he's been writing music, and he intended it to be kind of a solo project, which he goes by the name Scissors because his nickname is SSR, so his license plate says Scissors, and so SCISSRS. And basically Phil and I convinced him, because we're kind of still the only original members left, Mike's not really in the picture anymore, and we convinced Steve that, hey, listen, it sounds like a Taproot record, because even though you recorded everything, he recorded all the drums and guitars and bass and vocals, it still sounds like Taproot. So why don't you just release it as a Taproot record? Me and Phil don't care. We don't need any of the money from it. You take, you take that part of it and just release it as Taproot. And then, so that's what we agreed to do. And he partnered with this THC Music Distribution through Tom Hazard, who's a guy who's been around the music industry for a long time. And so now he's essentially kind of helping to manage the release of the record as part of this reunion thing that this Blue Ridge Rock Festival in Virginia does. They had reached out and asked if we would want to do a show. We said yes. So the owner of the Machine Shop, which is a really prominent venue here in Michigan and Flint, reached out and said, hey, why don't you guys, do some shows here and kind of warm up. And then we decided to do a show there later. It sold out in 30 minutes. So we booked another one. That one sold out in 30 minutes. And then we did a third one and that one sold out. So then now once the whole country hears that the Machine Shop sold out 3 shows, they're like, well, can Taproot come play where we are? So long story short, we're going to go play, I think, like 18 shows all throughout the fall, basically just on long weekends. We all still have day jobs and families that we're not planning on quitting anytime soon. So we're going to do Weekend Warrior shows kind of like starting August all the way through, I think we're out to mid-November now. And we're going to play a bunch of the old songs and some of the new songs. And we're really excited, man. It's going to be crazy, and I don't know how we're gonna balance it all. But we're talking about buying vans again and shit, and it's gonna be really fun.
So have you guys been rehearsing or what?
So we have been rehearsing on our own. We get together to rehearse in about a month. We're planning to do it a couple times. The good thing is that some of these earlier shows that we're doing in August are like 30 to 45 minute sets, so we're going to be able to kind of make our way into it before we're doing like an hour and 15 hour 30 set.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so Steve, because Steve's a metalhead, he plays a lot of double bass drums, which I don't play a lot of. So I'm like back in my basement practicing like and so I've been practicing a lot because I want to do justice to this freaking record that he put together, but it's not easy.
Maybe it's Spotify, maybe it's just been enough time where like people are hungry for bands like you. Even one of my favorite bands growing up was Extreme. They just put out a new record and I'm like so pumped about it. Like 10 years ago they put out an album, I could care less about it. There's something about people today going like, I miss the rock. Like there's rock bands today, but it's different. And I think there's something that people are hungry for. Like you said, 3 sold out shows. We guys play like 500 to 1,000 cap places every place probably or something.
Yeah.
Or more. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I'm so excited about that. That's great. So it'll be old stuff, new stuff, all the above. Wow.
You got it. Yep. We're kind of getting that. I think this is the 7th record. So yeah, you get to that point now where it's like, wow, there's a lot of songs to choose from. So we've got a shared notes page on our iPhones that we keep updating. And okay, which of these songs are going to be the priorities for the first one? Like Phil just made a bunch of updates before I got on here, and
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I'm so excited.
Favorite song will probably come out a little bit earlier than that, but it's great. It's everything that Poem is. It's got a great heavy rockin' verse and it's kind of when I was talking about the irony of the Poem to Myself thing, kind of bring us all the way back. The chorus, he says, because I don't even know the lyrics to my favorite song. Every time I sing along. Hey oh, la da 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 da. So he's basically kind of making fun of like, this is my favorite song. I don't even know the lyrics to it, but I'm singing along, la da 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 da. And it's really cool. It's really fun and creative.
I love it. I'm so stoked for that. I'm so stoked. Besides Taproot, what else are you doing? What else are you working on? Or you're a dad. You're working. You're an executive. You're an author. Is there another book coming out? What else is going on?
Yeah, right now I'm staying busy with my 5 teenage kids. They're all going to be in high school next year, so I'm trying to get all their sporting events, and I know this is going to go quick. So I'm trying to be an involved dad, and then I'm on my local school board, so that keeps me busy. I'm an elder and finance director of my church, so that keeps me busy. And besides that, I mean, I play in a band called Westfall. We've got a few original songs on the streaming services, and we still play every other weekend. It's just fun. We just play bars and whatever. We do a lot of covers, but we do throw a handful of our hard rock originals in there, so it's fun. That keeps some music in my fingers. And I live on a lake, which is beautiful, so I get to get out of my pontoon and tool around the lake. So I do that for fun. And
where can people find you these days? If somebody wants to know what you're up to, what's a good place to hunt you down?
Jarrod Montague anywhere on the Facebooks or the Instagrams, and then True Rockstars, name of the book. If you're interested in the book, you can Google True Rockstars book, and there you go. And Chris actually read an early draft of it, gave me some feedback, so I really appreciated that. And so you can find that out there, and you can order that, and that would be appreciated. And then all the Taproot stuff, we've got, I think it's follow Taproot on Instagram, just Taproot on Facebook, and we haven't really done too much with Twitter lately, so Instagram and Facebook are the places to find Taproot, True Rock Stars, and Westfall. So,
Jarrod, thank you so much for taking the time and hanging out. Awesome to reconnect, and I love following your career. It's super inspirational, your book. I'd read it, a few years back, read it again. I was like, I love it, man. You're an amazing dude, and a big influence on me musically and personally. So thank you. Thanks for who you are, and thanks for your time, man.
Hey, ditto. Thank you, man. It's really fun, and can't wait to watch all the rest of the episodes. This is a really great idea, so thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to my interview with Jarrod from Taproot, and hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Every little bit helps as we're starting out with this channel. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next episode.